Good morning. Welcome to another Random Code stream. Better turn down my volume because when I play the music, I don't want it to be blasting. Okay, so I think I'm at the point where I'm going to close this issue out because it seems to be working. And before I forget, I need to write a to-do down. Not for that. Here. Okay. So I forget where I left off from last time. So to-dos. And then I'm going to put one down because I was literally just seeing it before I started while I was waiting for the music to end, beginning music for the stream. Right, a refactoring to attribute. Okay, so I'll explain what that means in a moment. These I think I've done. So that's done. That's done. This is mostly done. My goodness. Morning frogs in the throat. This one's mostly done. I got to add one more thing, I think, and then I'll consider it closed. But as you can see here, I'm no longer getting this issue. Okay, I'm no longer seeing, my goodness, I'm no longer seeing this warning or suggestion or info, I think it is, to say about the value task. And so what I did, because now this is showing up correctly, so I want to move now into rocks and finish out this issue. The one thing to notice here that I just literally, the note I just took is, I was looking at this attribute and going, oh my God, if I got to make a mock for this, I got to come up here, I got to type an assembly rock of this, blah, 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 and it's, I got to remember, what do I want to do? Wouldn't it be nice if I'm on a type that when I do the work to here, let me bring this up a little bit here, the refactoring work, to have something to say, make mock for the type. And then what it would do is it would generate this. And then it could say make a mock using a partial type. And then you could rename that the way you want. Just some thoughts. And the reason I think I'm on a refactoring mindset is because I want to work on a refactoring if I got time left in this stream. That's the next stuff I want to work on. So I thought that's kind of an interesting idea. Could I get that to work? Using the refactoring infrastructure that's there, which would work in any IDE. It's just kind of a helper to say, I don't want to have to, if I'm on a type, wouldn't it be nice if I could just do this, make it, and then it works? Now, of course, there's a whole bunch of what ifs here. Where would the attribute have to go? It's got to go up here, right? You can't put it here or down in the code file, in the method body. It's got to be a specific location. So do I try finding, are there any using statements at the beginning of the code? If there are, great. Stick it up, right after it. If there isn't, then put that right at the top. And then somebody could say, well, I don't like that. I can just move that and put it into a shared file. Maybe they put a whole bunch of shared stuff for the assembly there, but at least that way they don't have to type all this out and they can use the refactoring infrastructure to do that. So I've captured that as a feature. I may work on that later, see if that's actually viable or not, see how far I can go. Which is good that the next thing I want to work on is a refactoring for Transpire. That's another package that I use to have a whole bunch of rosin stuff in it. So yeah, so I'm going to switch gears to moving to that today. Let me get the music going. Have that going in the background. So this seems to be good. I do want to write a couple more tests, but the thing with the test, if I come back here and I say projects and solutions, if we go into rocks proper, so I've landed on this for the code. This seems to be fine. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, okay. It was gray for a second. I'm like, did they change how the coloring works? No. I updated Visual Studio yesterday. So I made the report suppressions a little bit more defensive in terms of, making sure it's none, that it's in source, that the syntax tree is not null, because that could be null. You're making sure it's this. And I do also check for value task and value task of T result, I think is what it is. So I'm trying to be defensive and then capture both of these, even though CA 2012 seems to only work for value task of T, and it's only for the from result. Again, I got to talk to the team about that because that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I've got all this in place, and then I wrote a test for this. That was one of the things I was doing in the last stream, and as you can see here, I now have to ignore it, because if I run the test, and it should come back and say that it failed, but it failed with this really weird error. And unfortunately, I can't. This is about this type initialization exception, can't convert this suppressions to immutable array to hash something, hash set, blah, 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 way up in this stuff. And I'm like, what is all this? And so I started just looking this up, and I actually found out that this is an issue. So did I capture that? Did I put that? Yeah, here. So this is, and it's closed, but there's a catch here. So this has actually been reported as far back as August of last year as an issue. And other people like Brad Wilson, he's the person who basically is the head of X Unit, found this too. And it was causing some problems, especially with moving head. The thing is the assembly that you use now to test for like refactorings, for analyzers and stuff like that are all in here. And the problem is that you can't see it here because I'm using central package management, but I could just go to the package file, is that you'll see that they're 1.1.2. Well, this has been fixed now in what is considered to be 1.1.13. If you scroll all the way down at the bottom, you can use their pre-release packages if you put this in a NuGet config file. Okay, fine. And so 1.1.13 beta. Okay, cool. So this is definitely a bug. It was confirmed as a bug. It's fixed, but this hasn't been pushed out. And what is it now? Almost April. So I'm trying to look at when it was considered to be, because it's closed. It got closed somewhere between August and September. So let's say September, October, November, December, January, February, March. It's almost 7 months that we're getting on that this has not been released. And I understand time is finite and time is limited, and there's only so much people can do. I think sometimes people have a misnomer. Oh, Microsoft makes billions and billions of dollars. They can just do everything they want. The reality is, if you look at these teams, they are busy. They've got a lot to do. In fact, a friend of mine yesterday said, why didn't you ever consider working for Microsoft or getting on something like on the C# team or the compiler team and or doing stuff with Roslyn or all this other stuff? It seems like it'd be right up your alley, and you'd be so happy. And I just type back, absolutely not. Now, I want to be clear. It's not because I don't like Microsoft or anything, or that, that wouldn't be a good idea. It's just, set aside the whole thing of what would, even if that would be a possibility. One, I'd probably have to move. Two, I'm really getting long in the tooth of my career, and that's just a reality, so would that be something I would want to do, even if I could work remotely? The thing is, I've seen just a tiny bit of how these people on the teams work, and I don't want that. It appears to me that they work, and it's not to say I don't want to work hard. It's just they put in a lot of hours, and again, time is finite, and it also works with my own life. I want to have a life. I want to be able to spend time just doing streams like this. I'm going to be doing a gaming stream tonight. I want to be able to have time to do that. I want to have time to play music. I want to have time to go to a movie with my wife, which I did Tuesday night, and we went to see Mickey 17. Nah, I wasn't. She liked it. I wasn't very thrilled about it. But, you know, if I've seen a little bit of how much they have to do and how little time they have to do it. And I don't want to, as fun as that might be, it also seems like it would be incredibly stressful. And I don't think I have nowhere near the chops for doing stuff with the compiler. I don't have that background. I've actually written a compiler for a language and an interpreter, but I don't know. It's not, again, it's not a knock on Microsoft or the team or members on it or anything like that. I feel like that is just something that actually, as much as I love all this stuff, to be making the sausage, so to speak, I don't know. Seems like not a thing for me. So anyway, the problem though is that this has not been released. You can get it from the NuGet package feed that they have for their pre-releases. I tried that. The problem then is that because I have central package management, you have to put then, I think, eventually in here, or when you're referencing a package, which feed you're getting it from. So this key, I believe, has to now go in as well, which makes sense. Otherwise, how does it know which one to pick from? But I'm like, I don't know if I want to go down that whole route. So what I'm going to do is say, you know what? My scenario's view of this, it seems to work. The test actually seems to get to the point where it's trying to say, yes, it succeeded, but it's not doing what I expect. It's failing for a reason that I cannot control. So I'm going to ignore it for now. And hopefully this finally gets pushed, and I hope that somebody in the team sees this, because it would be really, really nice for these packages to be a little bit more, like, I think Sam is the guy that fixed this. And he says here, we tend to be broken frequently by NuGet by marking their packages as needing updates, and we don't always publish a new stable release afterwards. And he said, we generally recommend using the pre-release builds of these packages. I don't know. It sounds like this is circumventing a problem that it needs to be fixed, but they really can't fix something for some reason. I don't know. So I might, if it gets to the point where I want to release 9.1 and this still hasn't been fixed, I may go through the work to reference this pre-release NuGet feed and see if I can make it work there. I don't like that though, but anyway, so that's where we're at with this. The thing I think I need to do though for tests is I do have descriptor tests, and they're very simple, but I do want to add one because I did add a descriptor here for value type and return. It's not value type, it's value test. There we go. Okay, and then we come down here and we say tests. And then we just copy one of these. Actually, we could just copy the whole thing and then we'll paste in what we need. Don't need any of that. And the idea is this. Now this is interesting because, yeah, it doesn't have a title or none of this. right? But what it should have is, well, what else does it have? Justification. What is justification? It's a localizable string. Description? I don't know. What is this being passed in as? It is the justification. Okay, so justification. I don't know. We'll just do toString right now and see. What is the problem here? Oh, for God's sakes. And then we should also have, what's this one? Suppress diagnostic ID. What do we get for that test? It passes. Okay, and that's, I think, as far as I'm going to go. I don't have anything else to really do with this. I don't believe, like, the Rock Analyzer tests are using the testing infrastructure in these assemblies to do what it needs to do. So, meh. I don't really need to do anything there. All right. So, let's just go through. Why did it? I was like, why did that bring up a? Close it down. We'll go through the rigmarole of running all the tests, as you should. And then I'll close this issue out. And then we'll move on to something else. Okay. Oh yeah, there's also this thing about passing an return value and expected call count. I should do that. I looked into it, and it's going to be more work than I realized. I basically need a validation on all the handlers that are passed in and say, if your return value is this and your expected call count is greater than 1, then I'm going to have to throw an exception. It's going to be a runtime. So that's going to be a decent amount of work. And expectations has a, like, if you look at, let me get the test running. If you look at, like, what the code looks like when it's generated, like, you have a verify on the expectations that's overridden. What it could also have a method is validate. And what that would do is it would go through all the handlers and validate all of them and say if the handler is of, and only have the handlers in here that have a return type, because it's the only thing I got to verify. And so generate the code to say for all, like, for all the handlers in this one that actually has a return value, then look to see if an expectation's been set so that condition comes through. So I should arguably do that with this work, but it's not the same suppression work. So I might just put that in as a separate thing to do later on and then have that code generated. And then I got to talk to the team about this because I don't get it. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. And then this one was the idea I just came up with. Okay, so Those all passed, as they should, because this really shouldn't be affecting anything to do with the actual generation of code, other than suppressing the value test thing that I ran into before. So, by the way, this also now has, I don't know if I showed this before, but this is running this so that this goes across multiple threads. It's interesting, this change that I made, because I thought, oh, I'll just crank this up to how many processors I have, and then just run them on their own tasks. And then when one comes back, we'll report what they did, add another one into the thing, and then wait for the first one out of that to finish. It seems like four threads is the ideal count. If I actually go up to 20, like my machine has 20 cores, 28 if you consider like all the cores. And it was weird. If I let it go for all of them, it actually doesn't get much faster. And I actually run into a really weird error. Something about, and I forget what it was, but something about, and maybe I should capture that. You know, I should. We'll put that in as a to-do. Capture the issue about running code generation tests with too many tasks. Yeah. And I'll get this really strange issue, which seems like almost two compilations are happening, quote unquote, at the same time. And an alias issue shows up because two things now have the same type and play with the name. But I don't see it, like I've never seen it before. It's just running 1 or even 4 in my machine. It doesn't show up. And I've looked through my code and I'm like, I don't share any state as far as I can tell across compilations. So I don't know why that's happening, but this does seem to make it go a little faster. So, excuse me. So that's good. But should run this just to be official and make sure that everything is working as expected. As I mentioned previously, this week is MVP Summit. I'm obviously not there, but I've been watching the sessions online. Today is essentially the last day of it, and it's been interesting. Obviously, I can't say some things, and I just generally try to be very, very quiet about this stuff, even though like C# and .NET and all these things are being done in the open. You know, none of it, for the vast majority of things, none of it is secret. But there are some things that Microsoft does work on that they don't necessarily want to show just yet. You know, typically what the reveal of everything they do is in build. So when the build conference takes place, that's when some of the things that we've been told you can't share get shared. And what the summit has kind of turned into just a little bit of the change over the history, especially with .NET becoming as open source as it is they might have a couple things that are not publicly available, but they want us to know about it. And as MVPs, get our feedback and maybe play with a couple things so that they can get some usage out of something for more people before they actually show it at build, you know, which is fine. I'm trying to think. I might want to go next year because, you know, one, I'm getting older. Everybody is. I'm getting older, and I'm not going to have that many opportunities left to actually, you know, I still go to Redmond mostly once a year for VS Live. But at some point, that's going to stop too. I'm not going to be speaking for the rest of my life at conferences, especially VS Live. And, you know, I've been a MVP now for 18 years, and I'm applying for the renewal again, and hopefully I get it this year. My goal is, just a personal goal, is to be an MVP for 20 years, in part because I think the award that you see over my left shoulder, I'm running out of space for all the little discs that you get, and I want to see what, you know, getting the 20 and then the blue one, what will happen with that. But I mean, I also want to get it, that's being a little facetious, but I want to get it because I do like the award, and I do like the interactivity, and I do like the ability to talk to people on the product teams and stuff like that. And that's not going to be forever either. I've also kind of said to myself, I've been an MVP for quite a long time, and I think at some point it's just the right thing to do to let others have that ability, and let others maybe who are younger than me get that, have a slot open and get people that are excited about .NET, excited about these technologies that are there. And I think that's for good reason. There's a lot of cool stuff that the .NET team is doing. One of the things too that they're struggling with is, and this isn't private knowledge, this is something that I think .NET struggles with as a whole, is it's what your parents or your grandparents used. That's old stuff. There's still the notion that .NET doesn't run on anything but Windows, which blows my mind because that's not been true for 10 years. It just hasn't, And yes, there's .NET Framework, Big F, that runs Windows only. That's not what you want to use. If you're building new apps, I would not pick that as the default, only as I have to because of reasons internally. But there's no way I would ever build a .NET Framework based app anymore. Nope. Not even close. It's all .NET cross-platform, open source stuff. That's where everything is. And I think, though, it's always going to have that stigma with some people. And that's unfortunate because I think what they said is there may be a little bit more of a learning curve and some stuff that you have to get through at the beginning that isn't as easy as other languages. But once you get there, they say generally people look at it and go, oh, this is really cool. This is really interesting. And there's a lot of support and a lot of cool stuff there. But that barrier to entry and just also the community, frankly, is looked at as, oh, that's a bunch of old people, which honestly I find is a little ageist. Which, yes, it's true, but it's also that there's value and benefit to that. There's benefit I found with working with people that have been around longer than I have as I was working through my career. And not just like pure technical knowledge, also skills about communication, about interaction, about presentation, all these things that I think are needed that you don't know out of the gate. And having that hard-won knowledge is something that I think should be shared and should also be encouraged. I like mentorship. I like the ability to mentor people and also be mentored. And so, yeah, I get that maybe .NET is looked at a little bit as, well, you're a bunch of old people, which may be true, but I also think there's a lot of people that are getting into that there's a lots of cool stuff there. So in any event, I'm kind of rambling. This works. Let's close this out. I think I did also update the changelog, so that should be good. Yep. No, I didn't. Added a suppressor for CA 2012. When a value task is passed to return value. And this is issue 354. All right, let's do the closing. 354. Finalize the suppressor work. Time for a merge. I feel like the tools also, the Git tools, and they've been mixed. Like, so they made progress, and then sometimes I feel like it regresses a little bit. It seems like recently it's the speed as to doing things within the IDE here has gotten a lot faster. And that could just be, you know, just a visual thing that really has no weight or bearing on what is actually true. But it feels like it's gotten quicker, which is good. Okay, so we've done that. Let's come over here and we can close this out. Cool. So we got that in there now. And then I put in a bug. It's a bug, but I put this in here so I wouldn't lose track of this. And so I already got that in there. That's good. All right. What I'm going to do is drink some coffee. And by the way, if you're watching now or in the future and you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm getting closer to 1,000, but that's the first goal to hit. So please subscribe. Thank you. All right. So I will address these to-dos off camera and do the needed work around that stuff. But I want to switch gears. I want to move to something that I haven't done in a while, which is creative refactoring. I was thinking last night, what could be the next thing I work on in a stream? And there's always stuff to work on in streams, but right now with rocks, yeah, I've got stuff that are in 9.10, but I tend to always keep pushing them out because of time reasons and whatever. The big feature that I should probably work on next is the static abstract members and interfaces, because I don't think any of the other mocking libraries have this ability. I don't think they do. I should check, but I don't think they do. And so I think that would be a differentiator, just to say, hey, I think I have a design in place that could work. It's just the time to put in to make it work would be not trivial. And I might do that off camera because that's going to be a decent amount of frustration. And it may end up being that it just doesn't work. You know, right now I don't support it, but I think it'd be kind of cool to have something in place that does allow for implementation of static abstract members, which include operators. I don't know. Might be kind of cool. We'll see. Anyway, we're going to switch it up. We're going to move to, I think, yeah, I captured that because I think down here you see that oh, I didn't. Let me just make sure that I have that in my issue. I'm almost positive I do. Is that the, yeah, okay. We're going to remove regions. So this is something that I did a long time ago. Long time ago. And it was actually for the compiler API book I wrote. I think actually that's 10 years ago. That was the last book I ever wrote. And I had a whole bunch of stuff in there. And one of them was this deregionizer. It's actually a tool. What I'm thinking of is building this into a refactoring. So the refactoring it offer up the removal of region and end region. Now I have the code to do this, but I think I wrote it as a tool. I never wrote it as a refactoring, I don't think. And I have not written a refactoring in quite a long time. Refactorings usually haven't played in, but like I just said with the thing with rocks, I'm like, hey, couldn't I just say if you're on a type that could be mocked to tell rocks, hey, make the attribute code for me? And give all the options like make a mock using rocks, and then it would say like do it with a create, or just a make, or a create and make, or a partial type. And so it would declare the partial underneath it as well. You know, that could be a nice enhancement. So I'm kind of glad I picked this, because this is going to get me back into not only how do I build a refactoring, but how do I test it? I wrote tests for what I've done before, but not using the testing libraries. Those didn't exist 10 years ago. At least I wasn't aware of them, and if they were around, I think they've changed vastly since then anyway. So, the first thing we're going to do is never tried this. No, that's not it. Yeah, the Git thing here is related to what you're working on. So that's one little disadvantage to Git here, is that I don't think there's a way to say, like, manage branches. This is using rocks because I'm currently in rocks. But I don't want to open Transpire, so I got to do, I mean, I could do it from the command line, but I'm not a command line guru. So we're on main. Let's just make sure that we pulled. Okay, so we're going to make a new branch. Excuse me. Move region. Yeah, we'll just do that. Okay. Now the next thing I want to do is go cd, so not saved games. We don't care about that. Cd source. Yeah, cd source repos JSON transpire src. And yeah, we're going to want .NET SLN migrate transpire. No. Yay. And then we want to do it for scenarios. Cool. Okay. So now bye-bye. The wave of the future. Get rid of SLN files. Everything's SLNX, baby. All right, so let's open that. Okay. What do we got? The transpire tests. All the good stuff. Have I released one yet? I don't even know. I do get downloads. I wish I knew where the downloads were. What's NuGet Trends? I've never seen that before. Oh, it's just you're trending. Yippee. That's what I know. There's security and privacy things in terms of who's using it, but man, it would be nice to know who's actually downloading this. Like, who would actually use this? I'm glad somebody's using it, but why? If somebody's getting some joy out of it, great. Okay, so we don't have a release date yet, but we're gonna. Damn it! I did not even look at. Yeah, 5.1. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is definitely release a 1.0, and this will be one of them. Okay. Should I update packages? Because I haven't done that in a while. Yes. Updates. Seems like a good idea. What is still vulnerable? Oh, whatever. So I have an analyzer and a code fix. Is there a refactoring one? I don't know. I don't know. I guess I could just look in. There's testing. There is code refactoring testing. Never used it. But we're probably going to want to use it. So okay, why are you saying there's updates? Well, not with that one. Oh, I don't want... Okay. Yay. Okay. Yippee. I'm not going to get this done in this stream, that's for sure. There's no way I'm going to get this done. But we can try to start laying some of the foundational work. Do I actually have the version? Why do I have it as 2? It's going to be 1. Get that one. Actually, I just realized something. I just realized, why would you need a scenario solution when you can just do that within the project itself? Like if I look at how I'm referencing this, I'm referencing it not as an analyzer project, but like what you do with, like in Rock's integration tests, you do reference it that way. Well, then why not have another project that references that way and just has like scenarios for analyzers and cofixes and whatnot? Well, actually, no, let me take that back. I think it's better to have it in its own solution because you're trying to write code that is actually in a bad state. And so it may, like with suppressors, you want to see that things are not there that should be there. With analyzers, you want to show that I have code in a bad state. I'm getting lighting up and I can see it. If that was now an error, that would break the whole build. And so that's not what I want. So yeah, having them as separate is a good thing. Okay, so naming is hard. De-regionize. De-regionize code, code refactoring. It's as good a name as anything, I guess. Now I'm going to have to look stuff up because, again, I have not done this in a very long time. And so it seems like you derive from code refactoring provider. Perfect. And yeah, there's going to be some stuff we need to do. That's not the right name. That's the right name. Okay. Perfect. Compute refactoring's async. How cute. I don't, do you need shared? You probably need shared. Maybe you don't need shared anymore. I don't know. So if I look at this one, actually I wrote a refactoring to extract file types to their own file. This is way before this was actually in Visual Studio proper or in .NET proper as a refactoring. That exists now. So this one is old and redundant, but we can use this to say, well, our context has a document. Okay. And we're going to want to get the document's root and probably its model. Because if I look at the deregionizing code, I love that name. Yeah, this was just the thing that said for a given solution, walk through everything. And that's actually what we want to do is deregionize. It should be in syntax node extensions. Yeah, so you only report a refactoring if you're at a spot in the document and that you could actually do a refactoring for what they want you to do, I believe. Again, I have not done this in a while. So what we do is we just take any syntax node, we look for descending nodes and tokens, where it has leading trivia, and then we look in that leading trivia and we see do you have a region or an end region directive? And we select all those nodes, right? And we find trivia remove, and then we go through getting the trivia. This code took a while to figure out. But if we actually have trivia to remove, so if we're in a document, we could just say anywhere within the document, you can do this, and we'll just rip through and find all the ones that are this and then remove them to that. Sounds as good as a plan as any, right? And we were like, why would you do this, Jason? Why do you want to remove regions? I love regions. Regions are awesome. You're wrong. Okay. Sorry, I wrote this because, one, I wanted to come up with an example for refactoring or whatever, but I really don't like regions. In fact, I have a cup. This is just a coffee cup, but I have a cup that I sometimes drink water out of. And it was that when I was working as a consultant on a gig, and apparently I was so adamant against regions that they got me a cup that said end regions with a hashtag on it. So like I wanted to end all regions. The reason why is because I found regions the vast majority of the time are doing nothing but abusing code. They hide. They're either trying to say, this is the section where our methods are. This is the section where our properties are. And then it gets all shrunk up and it's like, look, we hardly have any code. But then if you want to expand it, you see classes that have like thousands of lines of code in it. And all these regions are just noise getting in the way. Regions tended to hide large blocks of code where somebody just didn't want to see that, and they didn't want to see it because they wanted to have more or less lines of code visible. And I'm like, maybe you should address why you have so much in one file. I don't know. I've always not liked regions. I'll use them, but very, very, very sparingly if I think there's a reason why to use it. But for the vast majority of times, I was just like, ugh. And I'm like, ugh, regions, get rid of them. And somebody was like, oh, I'll write the regionizer. I'm going to write tons of regions. I'm like, go ahead. I will always win. Because removing them is far simpler than adding them. So, all right. So the first thing we want to do is get the document and then the root and the model. Okay. No, not that. I've noticed also that GitHub recently has gotten much better about navigating code and finding things as you click on them to to move stuff around. Okay, so or to like navigate in a code file, and then you click, and then it gives you some help on the right here. So that's actually been kind of helpful recently to navigate code bases within a GitHub repository online. That helps. All right, so really all we want to do now is kind of take this and say we want to find all the syntax nodes. Okay. So let's actually grab this. Yeah, I could actually no, it doesn't follow the the Visual Studio convention, but that's okay. We don't need it to. I already have syntax node extensions. I don't need that. What I need is the method. Oh, wow. It does. Okay, that sucks. It doesn't actually grab all the stuff that you've collapsed. You actually have to still... So... because discards are now a thing. And so if we pass it in just any old syntax node, it's going to find all these things. And then we're going to find the trivia to remove. And replace trivia gives us a new syntax node. Right. So what we want is something to tell us like that we have a new node. And so maybe the right thing, what's the right thing to do here? And so we're going to create a new node if with all the regions removed. Okay. We might not even need the model. So what we want to say here now is var new root is equal to root deregionize. And we could be defensive here. We could actually just do this. There we go. If new root is not null, well, then we should be able to say context register refactoring, right? And what is refactoring? Code action. Because that's what you're passing in, right? Yeah, code action create. Let's make this a little bit easier to read. Remove region and in region directives. Okay, and then what's the next thing? Come on. We give a title, fungi progress, fungi blah. So this create files returns a new task a solution. Creates a code action for a change from more than one document within a solution. Use this factory when the change is expensive to compute and should be deferred until requested. So we could do the one that does a document. And the document So we could just do that, right? We could say async token, and then we provide cannot explicitly convert. Oh, is it a... Okay. Task. There. And it's as simple as that, right? I need to stop right now because I got some stuff to do. I think in the next stream, what I'll do is I'm actually going to put something into the scenarios and put some region code in there and see, just play with it. Do I get this showing up? And we'll just move on from there, write tests for this, see how we can get this all to work. So with that, I'm going to stop the stream. If you are watching now or in the future and you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. I would greatly appreciate it. I will be doing a Splinter Cell stream tonight and probably this weekend, but I will do a couple of Random Code streams either on Saturday and or Sunday. So with that, I'm going to stop the stream. Thank you all for watching. Take care, and I hope to see you in the future.